That's not your mother, it's a man, baby! One day soon I'm gonna tell the moon about the crying game.
Since you want to bring me on TV and tell secrets, I have a secret for you. I'm really a man.
You're an ass. Shit! Fuck! Crap! Holy fuck! Damn it! Bitch! Shit! 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 Fuck! What the fuck?
ここがいいな。ねえ、ここなの。
Hi, welcome to Last Man on Earth. My name is Lex Jurgen, as always, I'm flanked by Matt Ralston. It's almost football season time, which means Matt will be ramping up his NFL protests. They largely consist of eating chips, drinking beer, and yelling out, "Damn, those black dudes in dreads are crazy fast." Like a super white and lazy Rosa Parks, everybody must do their part. I would like to point out, I know you and I differ on the national anthem protest. I think we do. I mean, we both agree that it's idiotic they actually play the national anthem and do all the crazy shit at the NFL games every week.
Yeah.
But in terms of the actual players' commitment to the protesting in the NFL, seems pretty weak, as evidenced by the fact not a single one of them protested during the off season, or Monday through Saturday. None of them seem to ever protest. There's like three NFL guys who are legitimately into like Black Lives Matter. One of whom is no longer working in the NFL, Kaepernick.
Right.
And there's a couple other guys who actually do like things in the community where they work with Black Lives Matter and police and things like that, trying to stop police brutality during the year. And the other like 1,200 guys don't give a shit till it's Sunday and they want to be part of the whole fist raising or knee taking.
Well, I mean, what were they supposed to do? Like show up to protests and stuff like that?
How
Show
about
up to
that?
NASCAR and take a knee during the
No, there's
anthem?
there's Black Lives marches all the time. There's protests all the time. You could, I mean, Kaepernick, to his credit or discredit, depending on how you feel about it, is doing shit throughout the year for Black Lives Matter and for unjust police brutality protests and things like that. He's giving out grants. He's going to clubs. He's meeting with like community associations throughout the year. There's shit you can definitely, and there are like I showed like 2 or 3 guys in the NFL who are actually doing the same thing, and the rest of them are doing absolutely not a single thing until it's like game time and they want to be, it's peer pressure. So, although as I think as Jason Whitlock said, he thinks maybe 10% of the NFL players are actually in favor of the protests on Sundays, and the other 90% just don't give a shit. So.
Well, he's kind of a weird Fox guy at this point also.
Yeah, he is, but I think he's grounded in like, I think he's a grounded dude and that he understands that these guys are just rich dudes who just want to show. So, I mean, I think he cares about the black.
Well, if that's true, then why are they risking their bottom line by taking the knee?
I don't think
You're
they
saying
are.
It benefits them in other ways.
No, I just think it's peer. I think it's peer pressure. Didn't you do stupid shit in high school in sports because your buddies were doing it? I don't mean the anal sex romps. I just mean like, giving an F you. We're all gonna give the finger to somebody. We're all gonna do something that's gonna get us in detention or some shit like that. I don't know.
Maybe not that I can think of. I think the baseball and hockey teams were into the like the gay initiation stuff. The soggy biscuits. I missed a lot of that, though. All of it, actually.
This week's Last Man on Earth podcast is sponsored by Hollywood actors equivocating on which Me Too accused producer or director to support or excoriate based completely on anecdotal evidence and convenience. There have never been a group of people with such strong jawlines and weak backbones. Congratulations, Hollywood. You're the most self-serving people in the world. So there's this so the Me Too has now evolved to the point that, like, now there's accusations against everybody, and then there are counter supports from the same people who same group of people who accuse people of stuff based entirely on sort of their friendships with those people or their need to work with those people.
Yeah,
or
they're
like,
this guy's cool because he didn't rape me, so
yes.
I know that he's not a rapist.
Yes, I love that. Like, he can't be a pedophile because I've worked with him on 2 movies and I've never seen him rape a child in front of me before. Like, he's really. I mean, the whole idea of like the zero. We talk about the zero, Me Too is clearly a zero tolerance mentality, which is that any guy who does anything that is like sexually suggestive or harmful or rapey in any way is guilty of a man crime. But now, of course, they realize that's like 95% of Hollywood, and it's not going to work if they don't get some of their directors and producers back. I don't know. So, like the James Gunn thing, obviously. So the entire cast of Guardians of the Galaxy support James Gunn. But then they have to write a letter saying, but obviously we don't support his previous tweets about boy rape.
Yeah.
like thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah, and you know, if they pulled the plug on the movie,
Yes,
that would really affect my bottom line. So
that would be horrible.
I'm gonna, you know, usually I have really delicate sensibilities. I'm talking about Jennifer Lawrence and Chris Pratt, but you know, in this case, it's a special case.
What's a few child rape jokes?
Just happens to be something that earns me a lot of money. So,
By the way, I'm totally fine with what they're doing, which is saying that, like, I've never seen him, like, rape a kid or do anything sexually suggestive, which, by the way, on set, if you work with a guy enough on set and he hasn't done anything bad, that's kind of a nice record to have, since most of them do shit. I mean, Kevin Spacey was actively going around set, like, molesting guys.
yeah.
So it's not a nothing that you have a clean record on set.
I'm fine with it too, but I know for a fact that Jennifer Lawrence is the same type of person that would be like, "Oh, this is not okay."
Yes.
If it was someone else, you know, she'd be all bent out of shape about it and be telling you what you can and can't say, and you know what's funny and what's not, and et cetera, et cetera. I can't believe that she has retained a man, period, because she seems like a total travesty of a human being.
Well, she is rich and has big tits. There's something to be said for that. And young. She's young and wealthy and has big tits. But I agree, which is why I think smarter people that are narcissistic and don't live in Hollywood understand, in general, not all of them, that really calling out people for their sins and their moral crimes is a really bad way to attract karma to yourself. I mean, that live and let live seems to be a generally better way to get through life,
Right.
as opposed to denouncing people for their sex crimes or their bad, dirty jokes or things like that when you know it's going to come back and hit you eventually. So, Les Moonves. Just throwing that out there. Do not forget to become a patron of the show on patreon.com/lastmanearth. Thanks to all our new patrons. I'm talking to you, Steve. Get on the shit now before it disappears.
Steve?
He's our latest new patron.
What's up, Steve?
Yeah, Steve. If you wish to contact the show, hit us up on Twitter at Last Man Podcast or on Facebook, also Last Man Podcast. All right, Matt, on to the show. I know this. The idea of changing genders is something that affects you personally. It's a decision you wake up to each morning.
Yeah, you know, sometimes I want to get into a club wearing shorts.
Yes.
And I can't because I'm a man and I can't get the discounted drinks, you know, on ladies' night.
I've always thought you're like maybe 2 or 3 surgical steps away from Khloe Kardashian. you could pull that off pretty easily. So here's something that's been coming down the road. I think we've known about at least for several years now, since the transgendered rights have become paramount and preeminent to anything in our legal and social worlds for whatever reason have become such a huge deal, is that now defining your own gender has become a thing, saying that you're not gender binary. There's we conclude there's no medical or biological evidence to the fact there's more than 2 genders. There may be gender dysmorphia as a psychological issue, and you have mentioned the intersex people that you seem very familiar with.
Yeah, there's, you know, intersex. They don't call them hermaphrodites anymore. Because it's a strange word.
I love the term hermaphrodite. It's kind of hot, actually, when you don't know what it is. But it's a very small number of people. But we've decided somehow that in the last 3 or 4 years out of 40,000 years of human history, that suddenly genders don't matter anymore. They're no longer. We've had some sort of evolution that happened really fast in the last few years.
They don't matter, except they matter a lot.
Yes.
If you're a chick in certain situations, you know, usually the same person saying they don't matter, the next day or week is going to really claim that they do matter in terms of, you know, pay.
Claiming rights.
Yeah.
Well, that's the big issue we've been talking about, which is that if especially men can now suddenly claim that they're women, they are going to dominate sports. They're going to move into areas where they have a distinct advantage by claiming to be women. And at first it was kind of just guys in high school doing larks, claiming to be girls and going to the girls' locker room for jokes. But now there's some real-world circumstances where claiming to be a woman without actually having to do any surgery or even hormones, which obviously we've always said, like, okay, if you're willing to take hormones and lop off your junk, then of course, call yourself a woman because you've gone the whole 9 yards. But now you can just do it on paper, essentially. And so there's a guy in Canada who found that his car insurance rates would be apparently car insurance rates are really high in Canada. I imagine there's lots of car accidents in Canada, by the way.
Yeah, there's a lot of deer and moose and
snow and
ice.
And gay people.
And drinking.
And drinking and darkness. All that kind of stuff that leads to high auto accidents. So this guy in Canada found out that if he changed his gender to a woman, he could get dramatically lower car insurance rates. He's under 25. He was 24. And in Canada, they have different rates for men and women, which actually makes sense because they have very different, gender-wise, very different accident rates, especially young men getting much more bad accidents and fatalities than women do from drinking and driving aggressively. I think we all know this from just living.
Yeah,
just driving.
For sure.
Driving with college-age men versus women. With their 10 o'clock, the women with their 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and their electric cars are generally pretty safe. So what he did was he got a note from a doctor saying that he identified as a woman. He sent the note to the state government, got his birth certificate reissued. I think all this cost him about $85. Sent it to the car insurance place, and they knocked $150 or $200 a month off his car insurance rates for being a woman. He said it had nothing to do with him wanting to be a woman, just getting cheaper insurance. And even then, since he's done this, Canada, the Canadian government, very progressive, that you love, Justin Trudeau, has declared that it's too onerous for people to get a doctor's note claiming they want to be a different gender. They can now simply sign the checkbox, change the checkbox on their form, and get a new birth certificate with any gender they want, including, of course, non-binary.
But why do you need a birth certificate? I mean, what if you're gender fluid? You're a man one day or 1 hour and a woman the next. I mean, that's discriminatory if you have to keep getting a new birth certificate every day. In fact, it would make being gender fluid almost impossible from a day-to-day basis. So now I feel like that's technically
like the dead Arquette brother who said that every day he woke up and he would decide what gender he was and one of his pronouns changed every day.
That guy.
like that dead guy. Well, here's the thing. The birth certificate was only required by the auto insurance place to lower his rates. Mm-hmm. So he only had to do that one time. So he could go back to being a man the next day, I suppose, and it would only affect him on his yearly re-up. He'd have to resubmit every year. So he could do anything he wanted. But he's saving himself like $1,800 by doing that. And now we're seeing there's stories out of various states where men identifying as women, especially in high school sports, and college sports are doing this much more now, and they're winning all the championships. Aren't women going to be supremely fucked by this new everyone gets to choose their gender thing? Because I can't think of a single legal or social benefit to a woman identifying as a man, but there's certainly benefits to identifying as a woman because women are in a protected class.
Yeah, why would you want to identify as a man? If women are so oppressed, what is a situation where a woman would benefit from identifying as a man?
I was racking my brain, and I couldn't think of a single benefit a woman would get from doing it. You're not going to get hired more often.
She wanted to be admitted to, like, the stonemasons club or something.
You're not getting in there.
It's not much of a benefit.
No. I mean, what does she want to use the dirty, disgusting urinals in the locker room at the fitness club? Like that's like there's actually no known benefit in this day and age, perhaps years ago, to being seen as a man. Despite all those bad Hollywood movies where the girl pretend to be a boy in high school. There's actually no benefit to being a man in this society, but there's dramatic benefit to being a woman, especially if you are a man.
Yeah, I think that the left has kind of painted itself into a corner on this one, but I believe what would happen is there will just be like common sense will prevail at some point. So like at my gym at Crunch, fairly gay gym. They were redoing the locker rooms, and so they just closed the men's locker room for quite some time. I'd say the gym is 75% male. So you couldn't even use the bathroom or anything, and it was annoying because it went on for quite a while. And then
where were the down low hookups occurring?
Well, I think guys were rioting. The attendance dropped dramatically at that point.
I kind of feel bad for the AIDS virus.
So I thought about, well, what if I just went into the women's locker room just because I wanted access to a facility and just said I was a woman? And that would obviously scare and creep out everyone in the locker room.
Yes.
So what would probably happen at that point is they would tell me to stop doing that, and because they'd be like, we know you're not a woman. And then I'd be like, well, how do you know? And they'd be like, because we just do. And then if I wanted to, I could sue them. And the Supreme Court doesn't have time for shit like this. So at a certain point, some circuit judge would be like, yeah, we just know that you're full of shit. No, like,
You
we're
think
done.
so?
Yeah, I do.
So there was this club in Ohio. I don't know if you remember, like, was it a year or two ago, where the man was identified as a woman, still had his junk, but identified as a woman and lived as a woman, was changing in the women's locker room with permission of the club. And a woman in the locker room complained, like, there's a woman in here with a dick, like, changing. It makes me very uncomfortable. And they kicked her out of the club for complaining about it.
I remember that.
Yeah, because they had a policy of tolerance, full tolerance policy, where you're not allowed to complain about anybody's gender or sexual orientation. And the woman was like, I just don't want dick and balls in the ladies' room.
So
and
the
they
fact
made her leave the club.
Yeah, but she seemed like kind of a bitch.
Yeah, but if you were like...
She seemed like a weird right-wing person.
Oh, I'm sure she was.
Like, how do you know... How did you know... Okay, so if you saw his dick,
Yes.
her dick.
Yes.
If she was just walking around with her dick
She was doing
hanging out.
that blow-drying thing the guys do in the locker room with their
Yeah.
blow dry their dicks.
Yeah, just chilling, no towel.
Yeah.
I could see why that would weird people out, and I don't think that will ever change, especially women. I mean, what if it's midnight and you're the only woman in there?
And there's another large Caitlyn Jenner-sized woman with the big hairy balls.
Maybe as a full boner.
Yes.
That's natural. Why can't a woman have a boner if she can have a dick? Or that woman was lying because if you're just
Perhaps.
doing normal changing routine, you're not really going to see more than a glimpse of someone's dick.
Well, if you remember, there was all the high school lawsuits where, like, the boy who wanted to be a girl was not allowed they wouldn't allow the guy, 16-year-old guy, in the girls' room because the parents and the school was just too weirded out by that. So they had to create completely separate facilities, and then there was always some like broom closet, and they said, well, that's not cool because they came in and said we're suing because they need the access to the same facilities,
Right.
and the schools were fucked. And then what happened was they just turned the women's room into a women's room, and then the men's rooms into unisex rooms.
Yeah.
So men essentially have lost in the whole bars and locker rooms. Men have mostly just lost. The men's room has gone away.
Yeah, there's a women's room for them to use at their convenience.
Yes.
Which is still like exclusionary, by the way. But
Yes.
I guess you can do whatever you want if it benefits women. Yeah, and then there's the anything goes room.
Yes.
Where
With the
we have to go.
The 5 different cartoon characters painted on the sign. You can't figure out what 2 of them even mean.
Yeah.
There's like dick, no dick. There's like a cross-legged thing. There's like
It's also like the family room, which I never understood.
No.
Like, what? Some
No.
guy with his kid. Like, what are you doing in here? The family room.
yes. Have you ever gone to the bathroom in a women's room before?
Yeah.
Like with women in
Lots
it?
of times.
Really? No, I don't mean like a single-use bathroom. I mean like a communal women's bathroom.
Yeah, once was on accident.
Yeah.
I went in, and then other women came in, and then I hid in the stall until they left because I didn't want to walk out.
Yeah, that's the opening. If I did a movie about you, that'd be the opening scene. You're hiding in a women's room stall.
But I mean, why do you ask?
No, I was just thinking. I did it one time when I was younger and really drunk. It was one of those bathrooms where it was like those elaborate grill, like metalwork grills on the men's room and women's room. So like there was a W and an M, but I couldn't read them because I was too drunk. Like it was just like not a very clearly marked thing. It was like very ornate, like Gothic W, Gothic M. And I walked into the wrong letter, and I walked in there, and there was a woman in there, and she screamed her fucking head off, and I just ran out. But I thought that's exactly the response you would get as a man walking into a women's room.
Yeah, I've done that in Vegas several times.
Yeah.
Because there's no doors,
Yes.
so you just stroll in.
Yes.
And go, oh, and then you turn back around.
And I felt like a rapist for some reason. Like I just felt like a sex offender. Anytime a woman screams, you feel like a sex offender. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, I just got to take a leak. I'm just trying to take a leak.
What if this just leads to a massive overhaul of like how we look at bathrooms in terms of design? Because like my friend's bar, it's it's a small place, so there's just there's two rooms.
Yeah.
But now they're interchangeable, and that's cool because we all know. Like, I would always use the women's room if it was a single one,
Right.
because I'm like, well, what does it matter?
Really? Even though the women have to wait in line at bars to use the bathroom?
No, I'm saying if for some reason the men's one was occupied, I
Yeah.
would use the women's one, and women thought they were super clever. They always do that when the women's room has a line, they'll use the men's room,
Yes.
etc. But I just don't feel the need for really communal bathrooms in any sense.
No,
anymore.
it's a bad idea.
Like, we need just more bathrooms per capita. People are getting fatter. Or our diets are getting worse, etc. Like, you ever go into a restaurant and it seats like 300 people and there's like one toilet? You're like, how is this regulation? Like,
There's people. There was a story about people who had gave birth to their baby in the Chick-fil-A last week. I don't know if you saw that.
wow.
I'm like, Jesus, that's just disgusting.
Yeah, that is.
That's worse than abortion, as far as I'm concerned. Chick-fil-A gave the kid Chick-fil-A for life and a job at Chick-fil-A when they turned 14 or 15. Like, wow, that's really really living up.
Pretty sure, just based on the circumstances, this kid is already fucked, and now Chick-fil-A just made it worse by giving him free fast food and indenturing him into a life of fast food work.
I think this whole identify your own gender thing is really going to fuck the Title IX stuff in colleges, because now they're really going to have a lot of problems. There are a lot of tranny athletes already, and I know they have in the Olympics. They have like the hormonal level requirements.
Mm-hmm.
You have to reach a man has to reach a certain level of estrogen in his body before he can compete, but they still have advantages even at that because they're coming from a larger muscle mass. So it's like that guy in Australia who competes as a woman who wins every single weightlifting competition.
Yeah.
And it's just, and there's this I saw this Connecticut athlete, as a guy now competes as a woman, long hair aside, wins every single track meet. And it's just, I think it's just going to start pissing people off.
Well, I think it's more the territory of the right to just make up facts to suit whatever it is they think.
Yes.
But I've noticed that the left is starting to do this too. There was a female athlete at Adams State, which is in Colorado, and she was a kicker. She joined the football team on a scholarship as a kicker. She kicked in high school. I believe she kicked 2 extra points and missed a field goal. So that qualified her as a scholarship. Yeah. So I wrote a letter to the Secretary of Education.
Of course you did.
Saying, this is clearly discriminatory. You're taking a scholarship away from a male athlete. This is favoritism, etc. And they wrote a letter back saying, you're wrong. And it made no sense whatsoever. It was just a bunch of jumbled shit that they thought would, pass as an opinion, basically.
You're denying the right of a short, fat Eastern European kid to be the place kicker on a team.
Well, my point was, I mean,
yes.
in that case, how come a guy can't play for the volleyball team? Because I called the volleyball team coach, and she said, no, they can't. So
this is it, Matt. This is car insurance and using the ladies' bathroom. This is going to be our revenge. All you got to do is change your birth certificate. By the way, this rule is coming to California, as far as I know, on the gender thing, where you can change your gender without any sort of medical note or definition. You can just go to the DMV.
I might do it because I did graduate college, but I have 4 years of eligibility left.
Oh yeah,
and I'm pretty sure I could compete pretty well at most any women's sport.
Women's studies major. You're gonna go back to UW and just crush the competition.
I guess I'd have to.
I'd like to see you against what's her name, Ella Della Don, whatever the fuck her name is. I would pay to see
Who's that.
Ella, she's the WNBA, that tall white chick who everyone claims. They always have to find the attractive girl in the WNBA, like the one who looks like a model. It used to be like Lisa Leslie, but they're really not that they're really not very attractive.
I might have to go something a little more off the radar than basketball at this point. See, I don't play anymore.
Yeah.
I'm getting older. I don't want to be the guy that they're like, look, we're better than men at basketball. It's like,
yes.
no.
Yes.
I barely do
You're
YMCA anymore.
You're on the bench. That would be embarrassing. All right, Matt, let's talk about a female athlete who could easily dominate you, which is Serena Williams.
Yeah. She could definitely. What do you think she benches? Good Lord.
Although I was watching, once you go delve into YouTube for men versus women in sports, I realized there's a whole series of videos where like top female athletes are the strongest women they could find, like arm wrestling, just regular dudes they find at a bar, and the guys that were at the bar were just beating them dramatically. Like the muscle difference, the skeletal muscular difference is so dramatic that even like just some fat dude at a bar could just dominate like the strongest woman they could possibly find in arm wrestling. It wasn't really even close.
I'd say I could beat most any Olympic female athlete at arm wrestling.
Yeah, I mean anyone who was a legitimate woman, I think you could probably beat. Although there's some little.
I'm sure there's a few power lifters that
maybe, but they were showing like even the power lifters and the guys just off the street were stronger than the female power lifters, just because it's just the frame and the muscle mass is just so much dramatically different than women that even you can only get so much stronger by lifting weights over and over every day based on your frame and your muscle mass, unless you're Serena Williams apparently, who's put on some like 40 pounds since she got pregnant.
I don't think that's hollow muscle either.
No,
I don't. I think she's.
She got like offensive lineman type muscle.
She might be like the strongest woman that's ever lived.
She's got that stuff where the guys in the professional wrestling wrap. What is that? They put like the rubber band thing around their biceps.
Yeah,
like to make their biceps look even bigger. Like Hulk Hogan would tie that rope around his bicep, or the Ultimate Warrior would. It served no purpose really, other than to make your bicep look bigger.
It look cool as fuck. That's what purpose it served.
Yes, I think she should do that. So we never got a chance to talk about this last week. So after Wimbledon, I guess she got P tested again, and she claimed in a big social media frenzy, supported by every politically correct person ever.
As a black woman, do you think she's getting discriminated against? Yes. They obviously, if they're testing her more than anyone else, it's a reason for that. It's in that, whether it's conscious or subconscious, and I would say conscious, it's the fact that, that she's a black woman, and they're looking for some reason to be able to take her down or discredit her.
That she was being clearly discriminated against in drug testing by the Women's Tennis Association or where the fuck it is. That she gets tested more than anybody else, and that she knows, just as I think she was implying, as a black woman, that anytime she wins a title, she's going to get tested immediately the next day, and how unfair this was. And everyone just sort of agreed with her that this was clearly biased. And I assume she never said it, but I assume she meant because she's black, since she's the only black tennis player. I don't know what else she would be basing her discrimination case on, since they're all women playing. But is it possible, Matt? Is it possible that WTA is testing her more than the other women tennis players because she has 3 times the muscle mass? She weighs 50 pounds more than everybody else, and she's on her way to dominating the sport like no woman ever has in the history of tennis.
Well, first of all, I know you're convinced that she is being tested more, but this is just her word that she's being tested more than other women, right?
Yeah. I don't imagine they test a lot in women's tennis. I mean, those are pretty small ladies. Most of them are pretty small ladies. So it's not like Barry Bonds showing up with a hat size 5 times bigger than before. There's no, I mean, you can watch women's tennis.
Kind of like that.
Well, with her it is, I mean.
Oh, right.
But if you look at most of the women's tennis players, they're kind of like just normal-sized girls with skinny arms and skinny legs.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of muscle. I mean, they're strong-ish for women, but you don't see a lot of bulk muscle on those bodies. Because honestly, I don't think they could move very fast if they had that kind of muscle. So she may very well be tested more than anybody else. But if you're going to have a testing program and you're not stopped by the union from doing testing as you wish, why would you not test the person who is dominating the sport and can bench press 5 other women competitors?
Yeah, I mean,
she wants to.
She's obviously doing something. She's not naturally, and she's also getting older, getting up in age. How old is she? In her late
she's
20s?
in her like 33, 34, I think.
Okay, so you don't start building that kind of muscle at that age.
And she had a baby last year, from which she almost died during childbirth, Matt. Like so many.
Yeah, I'm seeing a pattern of things I don't think are true.
Like so many famous women who are dropping regularly from giving birth in the United States. I mean, I want to point out, is it discrimination on her skin color, or is it discrimination on the fact that she just looks dramatically different than every other woman on the court, and she's won 28 championships?
And are the people at the association in like a spotlight scenario where they know for a fact that she's guilty of doing something, of taking something?
Yes.
And they really want to bring her down because they don't like liars and cheats who go hide in the panic room when the testing guy shows up so they can get clean piss and flush out their system, as she did.
I bet her piss person gets paid a lot of money to keep clean.
Or maybe they just, really respect the integrity of the sport, which would be weird, but maybe they really want to get her, and the fact that this is very Lance Armstrong, how she's now going after the testers, which is what a guilty person does. So maybe they're like, okay, well let's go for it.
Lance Armstrong sued. Do you remember he sued the testing associations?
Yeah, he called them liars.
Yes, and he actually launched a multi-million-dollar civil lawsuit against the cycling organization and the testing organization for claiming that he was dirty. He went full bore, man. I mean, not only did he denounce them publicly, he actually launched a huge legal lawsuit against them for defamation, which is pretty amazing to do when you're dirty. When you're you're dirty.
Yes, someone should have told him not to do that. That's totally sociopathic, and that's probably what I would do if I was guilty.
Yes,
but obviously,
I mean, why would they bother to test the girl who loses every match, or the 180th ranked player in the world who never ever won, and who Serena beats like in 33 minutes in straight sets? Of course, they're not going to waste time testing that woman, because even if she is dirty, she's not doing it right, and she's not affecting the sport because she keeps losing. So of course they're going to test the person like Lance Armstrong, who wins the Tour de France like 8 years in a row, the American who comes over with inexplicable levels of endurance and defeats all the Europeans 8 years in a row. Of course they're going to test that guy. Partly maybe because he is American, they just hated that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess any super outlier would be worthy of testing more.
Yeah. Now in baseball, like they couldn't test Bonds more than anybody else, or McGuire, because they're protected by the union. So they had to do like the same testing schedule for those guys as everybody else. But in these other sports, in cycling, WTA, they can kind of launch. They just need someone to sign a paper, and they can launch like a testing schedule on anyone they want.
And if they had like the autonomy to do that, like say, this would be like in the NFL. Who's the biggest? I don't know. In Dominican Sue, right? He's arguably one of the biggest players in the league.
But he's not 40% stronger than anybody else in the league.
Yeah, if there was a guy that was 3 times his size, and was racking up 24 sacks a game.
Yeah.
If I was in charge of testing, I would want to test that guy more. Than
well, also everyone in the NFL
Brady.
is actually dirty. So, whereas in tennis, it probably for women, it probably doesn't. Maybe they are. What's her name tested positive? The Russian chick tested positive for steroids. I can't remember her name right now. The Russian, pretty hot chick, and they kicked her out. And they kicked her out for like a year. So maybe some of them are taking steroids. It would be odd that Serena would be the one not taking them, considering she's so much larger than everybody else. And it's not just that she's big. She's big. She's like LeBron. She's huge, but she's got tremendous speed, which is sort of the difference maker. Like you can get like Brock Lesnar big, but you could probably beat Brock Lesnar in tennis because he probably does not have great lateral movement at 280 pounds of muscle. He's probably not very quick to his left and to his right.
Right.
But to be like Serena or LeBron, where you're the biggest person in your sport, the strongest person in your sport, and also the fastest, and the quickest dexterity, that's highly unusual.
Yeah, but it's not even a great analogy with LeBron because he's roughly the same size as everyone else. It'd be like if there's a 500-pound.
I think LeBron's stronger than anybody his size, and at his speed, he's stronger than anyone at his speed. That's for sure. I mean, the guys who are actually way more than him can't keep up with him speed wise,
right?
And the guys who can't keep up with him speed wise have 60 pounds less muscle on them than he does.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
he's definitely a freak of nature. She has everything but the LeBron like brow, the pronounced brow. Although I assume that's coming. I don't know. I don't mind the fact that she bitches and complains. I don't like the fact that everyone has to jump on the bandwagon and pretend that it's a real thing just because it's Serena Williams saying it. I mean, she is like the darling of the media, and I just hope she comes up dirty. I hope they test her for dirty.
Me too.
And then Oprah will make a movie about how she was like they faked her test or something like that. You can't look that dramatic. It's not her skin color. It's her fucking biceps and her traps and her quads. Like if she was Brock Lesnar, as white as Brock Lesnar, and playing tennis like that, I would test the shit out of her. Matt, we got an email from Mike. He wants to know: is there really going to be a Fox News movie, a movie about Fox News starring every single A-list blonde actress in Hollywood? and this is some kind of weird obsession with. Do we have a weird obsession with cable news outlets? So there's this movie about Roger Ailes being a sexual harassing, gross, disgusting guy at Fox, and touching the vaginas of lots of female, aging yet blonde and big-breasted female news anchors trying to make their way up at Fox News. I have no. Oh, it's going to be called Fair and Balanced.
Well, the groping was and probably is a problem to some degree. It is an interesting topic to focus on within the realm of Fox News, which is a state-run propaganda outlet, which traffics in misinformation. I'm just saying, if there are a lot of ways you could take the Fox News movie, I'm not surprised that this is the direction they're going.
There's no way that. Well, of course they're going this direction because there's no way that like Hollywood, left of Hollywood, could make a movie about Fox News without looking like sour grapes, right? Because it'd be like the Republican group doing some MSNBC thing about Rachel Maddow and somebody else, something like that.
There's not a great way to present it in terms of the details because it's more of a documentary subject than
correct. It's more of a Michael Moore. It's more of a Michael Moore movie. So when you bring in, they have Nicole Kidman coming in to play a female reporter at Fox, and Margot Robbie is going to play Megan Carlson, I think, and they just got Charlize Theron to play Megyn Kelly. It's just like,
what is it with foreign white women that they love playing American, like ultra American women?
Well, these are the biggest. I mean, first of all, they're looking for blonde women to play the famous blonde women of Fox. But it's like these are A-list. These are $20 million, $15 million movie women. This is a big. This is like a cast you would get for like a Tarantino film or a big director films like that. You can't get these ladies together for the movie for most things. So it is clearly like this. Like I want to be in the Fox movie, but like who's playing like Gretchen Carlson, like the Minnesota pageant winner who went on to be fingered by Roger Ailes and then sued him for $20 million. This isn't, we were talking about before the show, this is exactly like exposing DuPont or Monsanto government corruption or drone strikes or military industrial complex. This is a gross fat dude at Fox who basically had his way with some women or threatened to like fire them if they didn't have go down on them or whatever. It was sort of a Harvey Weinstein thing.
Yeah.
But this is not like a world churning news. This is about a gross, really fat dude with 5 chins who basically could hire or fire like aging blonde women, and so they had to do his sexual bidding or just suffer his dirty jokes and him grabbing their tits, which is okay. But like when you're Hollywood doing Fox News, it's like, okay, who wants to be Megyn Kelly? Who wants to be Megyn Kelly? And like every A-list actress steps up. I'm gonna be Megyn Kelly. Like that's the role of a lifetime,
right?
To be the Fox News chick who was like blonde and pretty, and then got hired away by somebody. These are not like historically important characters.
No, I do think this is a whole sidebar of like no one wanted to make the Fox News movie when they were promoting war and whatnot. No. All of a sudden, this is a really important issue. Who's going to play Roger Ailes in the fat suit?
They haven't cast it yet, but I assume every single from Seth Rogen to every single virtue signaling Hollywood person wants to play Roger Ailes as creepy and horrible as possible. I don't mind the fact. I mean, these guys are all disgusting people. Obviously, it's just the fact they're doing a Fox News movie, and they're like every A-list actress is going to waive their fees, their standard fees, because there's no way they could pay them all to do this film because it's such an important topic. It's going to be just smack of just horribleness all over.
And it's going to be, the New Yorker's going to fawn over it, and every movie reviewer. I think they're probably going to like this one. I remember seeing that movie W when I was in college. I was really upset about the George W. Bush administration.
Yeah.
So I went and saw that movie, like kind of pat myself on the back. And, it's an Oliver Stone movie. I felt like it was some kind of duty for me to see that movie or something. It was Josh Brolin playing George W. Bush and Richard Dreyfuss playing Shane. Anyway.
It's always the same guys.
Yeah. And it's not Oliver Stone's best work. And now, like, I look at a movie like that, and I'm like, no, I'd rather see a fun movie. I don't think I need to see that movie.
No, I'd rather see these women in the next Road Warrior or something than I would in Fox. They don't need to make important movies. And by the way, the Fox News thing is sort of important, but there's some weird obsession. So I looked at the numbers. So like Fox News gets like 3 million viewers, and the other CNN and MSNBC get closer to like 2 million viewers for all their shows. So there's 220 million adults in the United States. So literally, like, less than 2% of the people watch Fox News, and a little less for the other outlets. So for 98% of the people, they just don't watch cable news. But it so dominates the discussion, like in New York and Los Angeles, that like those people, like even people that aren't hate Fox News or would hate Murdoch, they just don't watch. They don't give a shit. They're not like thrown off by like Sean Hannity is not like their anti-hero.
Well, a lot of them are getting their information through Fox News, though.
Well, 60% of the people in the country are getting information through Facebook. from Facebook.
Well, I think Fox News filters down to a lot of things, including like Sinclair and local news.
Yeah.
So I mean, I do think they influence a lot of people's opinions.
But that's not what they're going to be covering in this movie.
No,
like
that would be too
complicated. A sexual harassment case. I mean, this is like revenge.
Talking about the butt grabs.
This is weird shit like revenge. So that, like all the right wing, the weird dudes are finding all the old tweets from like lefties in Hollywood where they talk about child rape or whatever else. The Silverman joke about having sex with a child. And now the left's going to make a movie about Fox News. We're going to show how disgusting the people of Fox News are. I just don't think most people really literally care. Not just in the middle of America where they clearly don't care about this. I just don't think people are that obsessed with this kind of stuff. Like that's a topic they really can't wait to see.
No, this movie would bomb, and it would be the lesbians in their sweaters showing up way before the previews start, and everyone like making eye contact, like yes. We all know it's it's not a great organization. I wonder how many of these actresses actually worked for Fox News' parent company in the recent.
Oh, I'm sure they all did. I wonder how many of them have sex with, did the exact same things with Harvey Weinstein to get jobs. I mean, it's just this is not the way. I don't think people on the left and people on the right, partisan people, make horrible creative decisions, just absolutely horrible creative decisions, because both sides live in this weird bubble where they only talk to people that agree with them, and they go, "What about this idea?" They go, "Oh my God, you've got to do that. That would be so amazing." Like it's time to blow the lid off this thing that like 98% of people just don't give a shit about because they're busy doing other stuff.
Are you sure this movie is actually going to get made?
Yes.
I kind of want to bet you that it's not going to.
No,
be made.
it's getting made. It's like, okay, so you hate Fox, I get it, and Roger Ailes was a pig, although he's at least he's dead now. But honestly, at the end of the day, nobody cares about the sexual harassing boss at the news company. So if they're not going to do it about Charlie Rose, they're not going to do about they're not going to make a movie about Kevin Spacey. They're not going to make a movie about stuff. I mean, yeah, if you want to talk about the political aspect of Fox, that might be interesting as a Roger what's his face documentary. But seeing a piggish guy like assault women, this is more of like a female harassment Me Too thing.
Yeah, it's more of a Lifetime movie.
Yes,
than a Hollywood big budget movie.
Yes. Does anyone care about Gretchen Carlson? By the way, she got, I think, $40 million out of Fox in her settlement.
No.
I would let Ailes.
And Megyn Kelly is now on CNN, isn't it?
NBC.
NBC.
Highest paid person. After they fired Matt Lauer, she became the highest paid person at NBC News.
So we kind of, I mean, the general public progressives, I thought they had kind of given her a pass on being a right-wing shill for the better part of many decades.
No, I think they're still liking the fact that she's failing, but she is at NBC News now, taking down right-wing guys, whatever. I feel like because we live in L.A. and you also have Rachel Maddow poster above your bed, that there's like this weird like
love me some Maddow.
This is a total like social bubble thing, where I could see people going to parties and go like, "Oh my God, you're going to be playing Gretchen Carlson. You got to make him look really bad and like show her struggle against Fox News. This is going to be so awesome." And then like everybody outside of like Brentwood is like, "I'm not seeing this movie. This is the most ridiculous thing ever."
Yeah, it should not have of all the movies that should be made, such as one about D.B. Cooper, who jumped out of an airplane with a bunch of money and was never seen again. First of all, that's a better movie right there.
Yes,
we all know that. yeah, I don't. Someone needs to say no. It would be like because right wing people do this all the time. It just the movies don't get made because there is some truth to, people discriminating against their ideas. There's also some truth to discriminating against ideas that should be discriminated against. And that I think that's a good idea sometimes, because you can't be like, I have this really fucked up idea, and you're like, well, that's not a good idea, and you're like, well, you can't discriminate. Yeah, you can. But there's all these right-wing guys that are like, well, we're going to start a right-wing comedy Saturday Night Live, but it's for conservatives. And it's like, okay, well, that'll never work because it's not funny because you're all full of hate. But, everyone has these same ideas that are very self-indulgent. It just happens that this one is these kind are getting made right now.
Well, but when you start spending $50 million on them or $75 million on them, then it's a whole different thing. Because it's not like not a cheap, inexpensive documentary. Then all of a sudden it becomes like a passion project for all of Hollywood, something like that. I don't get it. So Demi Lovato lies. Apparently she's still in the hospital. She's ill. She has a fever. She can barely move. She may never sing again. Who knows if she'll survive? She's in ICU in some kind of giant incubator. 25-year-old, whatever it is, her life is almost perished. And here you are, Matt, attacking her in your opinion piece on mattralston.net about how she faked her overdose to make a few bucks on a rehab clinic investment.
Yeah, well, I do feel bad that she's obviously still in the ICU. And
or she's faking it.
Probably did some. But I went out of my way in the thing to say, look, I feel bad for her, and this has really nothing to do with her. So I guess it was 2 years ago, I was reading an article that is like Demi Lovato buys the rehab clinic where she went to rehab. I'm like, that's really strange. It's like, how great was that facility? Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to own a rehab clinic that you were treated in? It turns out there's some Dr. Phil Lackey guru guy that runs it, and he manipulated her into investing money in it. It's a for-profit facility. So I thought it was weird to want to profit off of rehab when you yourself were just in rehab, presumably, in dire straits and in need of treatment. That you would look back on that and go, I think I need a cut of that. To me, that's a weird impulse to have. I've never been to rehab. I don't think I'll ever go to rehab. But it just seemed odd to me. So I emailed Cast Centers, which is what it's called. And they're like, do you need treatment? I'm like, no. I need to ask a question.
I want to get in on some of your action.
Yeah. Like, I'm sure if I said I want to invest, they'd patch me right over.
Yes.
Well, they finally put me in touch with this PR firm, which bit of a red flag. Like, I don't know why a rehab facility would need a PR firm. It doesn't.
These are huge businesses now.
Yeah, I do. Yes.
And these are making $30-40 million a year. These places now.
Yeah, with little success rate, but a lot of rich kids spending
almost no success rate.
Their parents' money.
Yeah.
Because who doesn't want a vacation? So I said, do you see a conflict of interest here? I don't even know if these should be for profit, but why did she buy this clinic? What do you guys do? What's your success rate? Who is this Mike? Is it Bear? Who is this weird guy that seems to be, pulling a Brian Wilson's manager type of situation? And they wrote back, where is this going to run? I was like, what does it matter? Just answer the questions. And then they didn't respond. I go, yeah, I still want to know. They go, oh, we sent you an email. You didn't get it? I'm like, this is what public relations, this is what you're getting paid to do? We sent you an email and you didn't get it? Okay.
They stop you from getting any vital information, which I think is their job.
So finally they just go, we're not going to answer the questions. I'm like, I guess that's what public relations is. Like, well, you bring up some good questions. Yes. We're not going to answer those.
They're just giant information cock blockers.
So it pissed me off because I thought that was really weird at the time. And so then when Demi Lovato again overdosed, I thought maybe it was a publicity stunt for this business that she has. I don't know if the singing is drying up or whatever.
Yes.
But, maybe her guru guy, roofied her or something. But I thought it was suspicious. Turns out I'm wrong. I said in the
Yes,
article
yes.
that there's a good possibility
Yes.
that I am wrong.
They're probably reading your piece to her right now in the ICU, and she's just shaking. She's shaking and vomit, like white frothing out of the mouth uncontrollably. Well, I'll say this. So there's been a lot of, like, I think in the last 2 or 3 years, I forget what law changed, but all these for-profit rehab centers open up in California. I don't mean like 10. I mean like hundreds and hundreds open up in California. And they're taking people from out of state because apparently there's a new, I forget what it is, but it's healthcare coverage has to cover rehab now. So what they'll do is they'll send fly people out essentially from wherever they are into the rehab for like 4 or 5 months the coverage lasts. And when it doesn't work, which invariably it doesn't work, after the insurance runs out, they literally just kick them out the door. And this is why we have like a dramatically increased number of like homeless and drug addicted in California. Is they're coming from across the country to get these sweet rehab deals or really nice places. It's all covered by insurance, but the minute the insurance runs out, they literally just pack their cardboard box up and stick them out the front door.
Oh, wow.
And there's like thousands and thousands of like young men mostly who are now on the streets from Ohio or Kentucky or Wyoming, wherever they are. And they just bill them, until their insurance runs out. And then it's like, fuck, you obviously don't have any money. So now there you go.
It's just like how, Florida has this huge cottage industry of Medicaid scammers.
Yes.
Right? Like the same exact thing.
Yes. But they're
Except these people are deranged.
Yeah, and they're almost all unlicensed facilities, but they can't really shut them down. The state hasn't shut them down because they're rehab facilities. So even though they're not meeting state license, they're not sharing their success rates or numbers or anything like that. But they just buying houses like in neighborhoods, very heavy in Orange County. They're buying houses, multi-unit houses in Orange County in residential neighborhoods and opening up residential rehab clinics. And they're there for like a year or two, then just disappear.
I would be none too happy about that if I lived anywhere near one.
No, and like the requirement is like to open them up is next to nothing, and the insurance covers them, and so they get like.
So why are the drug addicts coming? Do they actually want treatment, or they're like, I get to move to California for 2 months?
They want free treatment in beautiful California,
Right.
And their parents or whoever it is want to send them the fuck away. So they send them out to these places, and by the way, they have almost a 0% success rate.
Right, so it doesn't succeed, and then
they're drug addicts on the street.
Okay.
And they drop, and they're all like in Orange County. Then Orange County, by the way, scoops them up and takes them to other places.
But this can't account. You have to be somewhat cognizant to fill out all the papers to get admitted, right?
You
you can't just be full on lunatic.
I assume it's mostly parents who are sending their kids away, grown kids to do this stuff, or caretakers.
Because from a observational standpoint, like there are so many more young homeless people than there used to be.
Yes, there's a ton
in
more.
LA. If you don't live in LA and you're listening, it's insane. It's like it's epidemic.
I was out yesterday, and it's hot out, so and now that all the coffee shops give you can use the bathrooms that hang on the coffee shops. There are just dozens and dozens of like young male homeless guys, like around the coffee shops and other places like that. Just like it's like Night of the Living Dead. It's like zombies walking around, like no shirts, just like cut up pants, walking around with cups of water and whatever drugs are doing, and like in large packs.
And large populations of tent cities.
Yes.
On anywhere there's like shelter from the wind.
Yes.
There's structures erected full of, I would assume, stolen goods. I don't know.
Stolen cardboard boxes. Yeah, they've gone through the dumpsters.
Well, you
and
got
stuff.
3 bicycles. I would assume you stole them.
But I think California has 25% now of the entire country's homeless population. And it's largely, it's partly the weather, obviously. You're not going no one's going to North Dakota to be homeless because you'd be dead after one winter. But Florida has the same issue, and Texas to some degree. But it's largely the drug rehab. And so people that are drug addicted are coming to California. And these are almost all white, younger white males coming to California and then going through this process. It doesn't work, and they're kicked down the streets with no job and a drug addiction.
Yeah, I'm having like a No Country for Old Men moment, like almost daily in my neighborhood because, I've lived there for like 5 years, and it's, I sound like an old wife, but it's literally turning. The neighborhood is turning to shit.
Yes.
Like a couple of days ago, there was a guy. So I live kind of on a hill, not a steep hill, but if you could build a lot of speed going down the hill, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
on a bicycle. So there was a guy riding a bicycle downhill real fast, and there was another guy chasing him who looked like Lil Wayne, meaning like a crackhead.
Yes.
And so the guy's chasing him going, he stole my bike. He stole my bike. And I go, do you want me to call the police? Or, because, and then the guy starts yelling, and he's gay. And I go, what does that have to Oh, you're just two crackheads.
Yes.
Well, fuck. I guess that's why if someone stole your bike, usually you're carrying a cell phone on you or something. But
it has gotten really bad. It is much worse. Actually, I don't think nationwide. I don't think it's gotten worse at all in gross numbers. But in California and Florida and a couple other states, it's gotten much, much worse, like dramatically. And a lot of it is this healthcare rehab scam. So the guy, by the way, if you want to make a lot of money, just turn your place into a rehab facility and get insurance billing, and taking taking a few guys from like Nebraska who got hooked on meth, and you'll get like $4,000 a month for each of them. Feed them Jack in the Box for like 4 months.
I think I'd rather starve to death.
I don't know.
So Lovato wants a cut of this.
But isn't
business.
she? Yes, but isn't she actually? I mean, I don't mind the fact that I think is probably pretty dumb. So I don't think she actually knows what she's doing. If anything, it's her handlers who are doing this shit. But she promotes like rehab places because apparently it helped her. I guess not much.
It's like the Kenny Rogers roasters of rehabs.
Love those places.
They attached her name to it, which is fucking ironic, by the way, because she just OD'd again.
Yes.
So
is that good but is that good for business or bad for business?
I would think it would be bad because it would show that you didn't do something right. I mean,
I think I've met like the one or two people globally for whom rehab has been successful, and I'm sure you know one or two yourself, and they're the most insufferable people I've ever met in my entire life. There's no winning. There's no way you can win, because either you become that extreme case, a person who does overcome their addiction, and you're just this horrible person to be around, or you just remain addicted forever, and you're more fun, but then horrible things happen to you, and you start stealing shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I know a few of those people, but I look in their eyes and I just feel like they're always just a millisecond away from cracking.
Yes.
So I could say like, well, as of right now in this moment, you're rehabilitated, but I have no idea what you're going to be doing 5 minutes from now. And even if they've been sober for 20 years,
yes,
I feel the exact same way.
I don't know if I'll tell you a story, but a good buddy of mine, he had friends, neighbors where he grew up and very close friends with, an elderly couple, and they had some money and they were close to passing away. And they had a young son who was like, this early 30s, but he'd been addicted to drugs since he was like 14 years old, like 18 years in and out of rehab, prison, all this stuff like that. And they asked my friend to be their executor when they passed away, because they could not leave anything to their son because he's like a fucking crack meth addict for 15 years. They knew that. And I told my friend, don't take that job. I don't care how much you owe these people in worldly debt. This guy's 33 years old. Can you imagine him coming to you for money? Like, you would have to give an allowance, and like he would have your phone number and where you live, asking for money at all hours a day. Yeah. And you'd have like $500,000 of his money, but you'd only give him like $5,000 like a year to make sure he didn't blow it on drugs. Like, that'd be like the worst obligation ever in your life, because that guy's gonna be around for like 20 or 30 more years, just fucking whining to you on the telephone about how he needs money for surgery or needs money for like some horrible thing.
Yeah.
He's not getting over the drug addiction at 33.
Yeah, it's a bad situation. I mean, imagine the person. There's got to be at least a couple chicks that are bragging to their friends that they went to the same rehab clinic as Demi Lovato and like taking selfies. There's a plaque like Demi vomited right here for a day consecutively.
I feel so bad for her that you're attacking her and impugning her reputation while she's on a ventilator. It's really horrible.
Well, no, I do feel bad, but
she may not be. I'm just making all this shit up, but
no, I mean, I think she's not in good health. I mean, I hope she pulls through, but
she's fine. I mean, you just don't recover from that. Even then, like, I know like former meth addicts, you just never recover. They just never. They have that look in their eye. They're just a dead eye.
Well, Lamar Odom's going to play basketball in China. That should work out pretty well.
So he says.
He died and then came back to life, and you know,
did.
He's kind of like an Anthony Bourdain in that he still felt he could throw back a few cocktails from time to time.
I feel like guys with like a Lamar, we spend more healthcare resources than like the entire healthcare resource spent like in the country of Kenya for an entire year to revive him from a whorehouse erection pill overdose. Like that could have saved that. Those resources could have saved like 3,000 people like in a foreign country somewhere. Instead, we spent that on Lamar.
Yeah,
that's where I think so. Before we change topics, I want to tell you my favorite homeless story ever because I love to share this whenever I get a chance. When I lived in Washington D.C., it was really warm out in the summer, so all the homeless people would come out. D.C. is like one of those downtowns that empties out after on the weekends and at night because it's all like people who work in D.C. but nobody lives there. So other than young people who go to bars there, it's like weirdly empty. So homeless people come out like crazy at night. And I once saw a guy who was, I would say, morbidly obese in his little cardboard cutout city he made for himself. He took a huge dump on the street. Like, as I'm walking by, just squats, sort of squatty. We could barely get off the ground. He was so heavy. And, oh, by the way, naked. And took a huge dump. And I thought to myself, like, that's disgusting. But being a guy, I'm very practical. I'm thinking, like, how the fuck is he going to wipe his ass after taking a shit in the street? Within seconds, what I would call a dwarf, homeless dwarf, comes running over with toilet paper wrapped around his hand and wipes the obese guy's ass for him. Wow. I thought, like, oh, that's his protector. And now everyone has a job. Everyone has a job in this new ecosystem. I was just like mesmerized by watching this thing go down. I thought, like, wow, that's the greatest homeless moment I'm ever going to see in my entire life.
Yeah, that's hard to beat. I mean, do homeless people, do they wear the eccentric clothing, like, to make friends, or are they trying to draw attention to themselves, or are they just crazy?
I think they're just crazy. And also, they're grabbing stuff out of the back of Goodwill or wherever else. But when I saw a little midget come by, I thought it's like those you know, the sharks have all those little fish that eat all the like the parasites off them, and they don't eat those fish because it's like it's like nature has a way of finding itself in equilibrium. And that was like, there's an obese guy and there's a midget, and they're living on the street. What jobs would they have? The obese guy keeps the midget from getting beat up, and the midget has to wipe the guy's ass because he can't reach his ass.
I saw a tent yesterday.
It's kind of beautiful, actually.
Yeah, it is. It's I mean, Jane Goodall should really just, you know, profile those two people.
It's better than the Fox movie.
What is it about being homeless that you become real patriotic all of a sudden?
Oh, really?
I would think if...
Have you noticed that?
I mean, every... You know, wheelchair has a flag on it.
Well, those are vets, probably, right?
Not always.
Yeah.
I just saw a tent with the big flag on it, cut like as the flap, which I thought was ironic.
Do you think you get better like handouts and stuff like that? Maybe you get more people giving you cash or something.
Maybe. I don't know. I would just think if I was sleeping on the sidewalk, if anything, it would make me less patriotic. Like I'd be all about like. Sweden.
Yeah, but I see the guys. Don't you see the guys who carry the sign? The guys carry the sign like have the Army vet sign, and I assume they make more money than the people don't have that sign.
Yeah, I mean, I feel sorry for the veterans.
I don't know if they're real veterans or not, but I'm just saying announcing yourself as a veteran. I think you're more likely to get panhandling money than somebody who's not.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a good gig. Although there are, by the way, a lot of veterans who are homeless, which is actually kind of sad because it's mostly mental illness and these.
It is sad, but nonetheless, I would just think like, well, this country didn't do a lot for me.
Yes.
Like, I don't think.
Where are they going to go? They're going to go to Mexico, like go to the border, cross illegally to Mexico, and become like homeless in Mexico.
Go to Denmark, man. They'll set you
up. Think it's good? I don't know. I think there's a lot of good shit here for homeless people. They seem to be doing well. The guys I saw, the hordes of The Walking Dead I saw yesterday, they seem to be doing pretty well. I always wonder, like, the guys because they don't wear shirts, it's easy to just check out their body types. And they all seem to be well fed. They're not like, it's not like, I mean, you look at pictures of like the starving in sub-Saharan Africa, and they're all like skinny disturbingly skinny.
Yeah.
But there's homeless guys here, and they're all fat. So
well, dude, if you think about it, like, I always wondered why. So if you sleep in a tent or like a refrigerator box,
yes,
it's like, oh my God, that is so sad. But like, if you're like a busboy and works your ass off,
yes,
and you know, repatriate that money, you share a 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom with 8 other guys.
Easily, yes.
That's arguably just as bad as a living situation, but no one really feels a lot of sympathy for you, I guess, because you're not out on the street. But
Also, you can't do drugs. You can't do drugs in that situation because you're saving all your money to send it somewhere else.
yeah, I mean, you might. You know,
I don't see a lot. I don't see a lot of
Miller High Life.
You don't see in LA. You don't see a lot of Hispanic homeless people.
No, you don't.
And you don't see a lot of necessarily. You see some black homeless, but it's generally white, younger white guys.
Yeah,
who are homeless.
I think that's where the drugs come in because
Yes.
I'll just see him just sitting there, and I'm like, dude, I can't just sit there
No.
for more than 10 minutes
No.
without being like, okay, got to do something,
Yes.
even if I'm just fooling myself.
Yes.
I gotta read
Well, it was
something.
It was 108 degrees here yesterday, and there was a guy like sleeping on the cement in the sun. I'm like, you gotta be pretty whacked out to sleep in 108 degree heat. I was like, I couldn't sit down for more than a second, even drinking my lemonade. I was kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
To be laid out on a piece of cardboard in 108 degree heat, baking like a turkey, you got to be pretty fucking wickedly faded. So, all right, that was a really, really sad story.
I feel terrible.
So there's a new bunch of apps. I love if somebody has an app, it's suddenly a legitimate story to talk about. Like, you know, it could be anything just completely far-fetched, but if there's an app for it, it becomes a topic of major news, like mainstream news discussion.
Right.
Like, oh, well, there's an app for it, so it's really legitimate. It's really legitimate.
That's a good point. It's like if someone makes a TV show that's
Yes.
straight garbage and no one cares about it or watches it.
Yes.
That's not reported as a interesting news tidbit.
No. I think back in the day, if it had a website, it was considered legitimate. Before there were like 93 million websites. There's like if there's a website, then it was considered like a news outlet.
Right.
But that was before like everyone realized it cost $1 to start those up. So there's new sexual consent apps seem to be taking over college campuses. There's one called Consent-C.
They're definitely not taking over college
No,
campus.
they're not. I was thinking about how much college has changed in the last 25, 30 years. It hasn't changed that much, I don't think, where people are using consent apps. So this one you're supposed to take out of your pocket. I assume it's mostly women who'll be doing it. You take a selfie of yourself, and you repeat the legal assurances into the microphone that you want to have sex with this person. And then you take a picture of that person. They state their name and give the legal consent. And then Consent-C archives that record into a scrambled legal somewhere that can only be opened by police with a warrant during a legal trial, which is really sexy. Which is really sexy. They've done. If you watch the YouTube videos for it, where they show promotional videos, they try to make it look cool. there's no way to discuss consent in a sexual enticement situation.
They should just show one of those casting couch pornos because they do the exact same thing.
Oh, with the legal disclaimer, you mean?
Yeah, the girl's on the couch and they're like, we're going to, have sex. Show me your driver's license.
Yes.
Do you definitely agree to do this? Yes, I do. Which always struck me as it's very clinical, and obviously you would have no chance of the
Getting with
sex
somebody.
would not be on the table.
Well,
once
what's his
you
name? Joe
pulled that out.
Francis used to do that because he was always sued for having underage girls and Girls Gone Wild. So he'd
yeah,
make the
he's
girls.
a pornographer.
No, he was, but I mean, the girls were always partying in Fort Lauderdale, wherever. And some of them were high school girls, obviously. So he would make them pull out their driver's license before he filmed them, like lifting their tops up to protect himself. And I guess it didn't really work because he ended up having to go to Mexico and run away somewhere. But I kind of felt bad for him because I think he was trying to make sure they were 18.
Joe Francis' story, by the way, more interesting movie than Roger Ailes.
Yes, by far. Oh my God, Joe Francis was an amazingly despicable fellow. And by the way, best friends with the Kardashians, if you knew that or not. So you were supposed to say this consent stuff into the microphone and all this stuff, and then afterwards you can then have sex, knowing that you're fully both have given 2018 level versions of consent, so that there'll be no misunderstanding between you two. And I know when you and I first talked about it, we all, as every guy would, this is the dumbest thing ever. I'm never going to use this. But then I started thinking, like, isn't this actually a good thing for guys, as lame as it is, because you'd actually have a legal record of consent, which is the biggest problem for college sex right now, which is that women after the fact can say they didn't give a consent or they were too drunk to give consent. And then a lot of guys are facing rape allegations. Mattress Girl, for instance, in Colombia. Wouldn't you want, as a guy now, I don't know what it's like as a guy to be like 19 or 20, wouldn't you want to have a legal record of consent?
I don't know. I mean, no, I wouldn't want a record of who I was fucking stored on a cloud somewhere to be later hacked.
Well, yes, of course, yours would be an embarrassing record.
I would be very suspect of any guy that had that, because I'd be like, well, what are you doing? Like when you're not using this app, like I would think you're too concerned about this. I mean, from a practical standpoint, yeah, I guess it makes sense, but it's also a kind of thing that, yes, in practice it sounds okay, but it will never ever happen. So I don't even see the point of talking about it, because once you bust out that app, you're not having sex.
No, I can't see how that's going to work. Well, I'll take it this way. If the woman busts it out, as a man, you're still having sex with her because you're a guy and you're still going to have sex with her no matter what.
Yeah.
So if it is a woman bringing it out, but I don't understand how it actually helps the woman, because there's really only cases where men get in trouble for non-consensual sex. Women never do. So I don't really even understand the advantage of a woman having the app in the first place, because it can only be used to hurt her, essentially, whereas once she gives consent, she gives away all sort of rights to complain after the fact.
Right.
And she's never going to get in trouble anyhow. So it really only benefits the guys. And to me, if you're a guy, you're still going to have sex with a woman no matter what she pulls out legally, because you're 19 and you're so fucking horny, you're going to have sex with her no matter what.
Yeah. And I think if the woman really wants to fuck over a guy, she'll just say, I was stoned, I wasn't sober, or he he threatened me and had a gun to my head before I did it, or whatever. I mean,
well, you have to take a photo, Matt. That's why they do photo evidence.
I don't think it matters.
No.
Look at Kesha. She accused this guy of rape. They're like, okay, well, here's a deposition where you swore under oath that you've never had sex with him, and you're laughing about it.
Yeah, but he's never been criminally prosecuted for it.
No, but in public opinion,
yes.
It's like, well, let us provide you with this almost irrefutable proof that she's lying. And then Taylor Swift is like, no, she's still a victim. And you're like, well, I don't know what's real anymore. So, like, I would think if a woman really still wanted to accuse a guy, that this wouldn't matter.
Yeah, probably not. I don't see the benefit of this. I see a huge and massive legal and social problem with consent, what consent means anymore. Because really what it means is, like, I mean, you can destroy some, like, I was looking at reminding of the Aziz Ansari case. So they're going to come back with his Master of None, season 3 of his series. And there's a whole debate whether or not he deserved to be back. Like, are they really going to do this, all stuff like that? And what really happened with him? Nothing. I mean, he was accused of asking a girl to basically go down on him or go down on her after their date when she went back to his apartment with him and they were making out. And then he started, like, asking her to, like, give him a Hummer. And then she didn't want to, so he offered to go down on her, and she said it was really awkward at that point, which I can imagine he's probably really awkward. And then she left, and they wrote a piece about it that appeared in a New York magazine, which not even an allegation of misconduct or criminal behavior. And then it's like, he can't work again. Can he work again? So
yeah, that's pretty scary. That, I mean, what's the burden of? I mean, yeah, what's the line to where you're blacklisted? It's someone writes a fairly crappy, unsourced article accusing you of being kind of a weirdo.
Yeah. Well, Chris Hardwick is back now on his TV shows after his ex-girlfriend, who, by the way, didn't even name him in her piece on Medium.com, talked about how he was manipulated her a lot, was emotionally abusive to her. Which, by the way, because I've got the email from him, I know that he's a creepy weirdo who was probably emotionally abusive. But it's not like he can't leave. It wasn't like he chained the door. He was just an asshole boyfriend. You could have left anytime you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, you can be a manipulative girlfriend as well. I think a lot.
I've had those before.
Yeah, we've had those.
Yes.
So I'm not trying to get her fired.
No, but I think this consent app, as a guy, I knew a guy in college. I knew multiple guys in college who were accused of well, not multiple, but 2 who were accused of sex crimes who didn't commit them. I actually probably know a bunch of guys who committed sex crimes that I don't know about that were never accused.
Right.
But I distinctly remember a guy who was this chubby, sad, nerdy guy, and a girl, they went out one night and there was a club, and this girl who was fighting with her lesbian girlfriend and got wasted drunk, and they had a rip-roaring fight, picked out the lamest dude she could find, literally, not just because he was lame and bother her, but because he looked so sad and doughy that she didn't like guys. She didn't want to be with, like, a guy who would really fuck her, and she had sex with him so she could tell her girlfriend that, tell her off. And then after the fact, she accused him of rape because she couldn't tell her that she decided next day when sober she couldn't tell her girlfriend she had sex with a guy. And it took him 2 years in legal stuff to get out of this thing. And it was absolutely horrible. So I think the Consensi app might have helped. By the way, I think that was the first time he ever had sex, which is really, 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 really sad. So,
Oh, no.
yes, imagine the guy, like, just this nerdy dude, like, he was like 19, 20, never had sex, and then some angry girl just grabs him at the bar and says, come back to my place, and you're gonna do this, and she's just not even thinking at him, looking at him, just like texting her lesbian girlfriend, listen to what I'm doing.
Oh, man.
He's like, oh boy. And then next day, like, there's like a police officer at your door or somebody else with a notice saying you're accused of sexual assault. I mean, this guy was broken. He was literally broken after this. So I think the Consensi app would have been nice for him.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. The mattress girl
Yes.
got the dude kicked out of school.
Yes. He couldn't get hired by anybody.
Then I'm sure his life is still in shambles.
He did successfully sue and won a large amount of money from Columbia University.
Yeah,
But-
after it took however many years.
Yes.
And you're like, well, here's proof that she's lying. These are texts that she sent.
Yes.
Saying, obviously I'm still into you, and not mentioning the rape or anything. And it just became very obvious, not only that she probably made it up, but that she was the type of person who would make that up because she was fucking insane.
Yes.
Hence, she started carrying the mattress around and then filmed a porno for women's rights.
Yes. She was a very dramatic character. I'll give her that.
Wonder what she's up to these days.
Do you remember she actually made for one of her film projects a recreation of the rape that didn't happen in her room.
That was the porno I was talking.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But it was actually a recreation of the guy sodomizing her. And so not only was she like accusing him, she was making after the fact videotape evidence.
Well, when you say recreation, I'm picturing a Discovery Channel war reenactment.
Yes.
She was
Yes.
She was banging a stranger.
Yeah, but what she was trying to do was show she was trying to recreate a piece of evidence from the night she claimed she was assaulted, as if to say, like, this is exactly how it went down to the nitty-gritty pornographic elements of it. And it didn't happen. So it was like she was making up evidence bias.
Well, she lacks credibility in
Yes.
general, but there's no way you had those Klieg lights set up when this went down. I mean, the lighting was
of course
not intimate.
It was
hard to watch.
Yeah, but so I think what you're saying is these consent apps don't matter anyhow because they still won't be believed by anybody.
Yeah.
You're still not going to help you? All right, well, there goes Consensi's stock options. I'm sorry for that. I agree. I feel really bad. It was bad, I think, when I went to college way back when. I don't know how bad it was on your campus, but I can't imagine now, actually. Like, all I remember thinking is, like, it'd be so much easier to have sex with people who aren't on this campus because there's just too many, like, the school justice system was too hell-bent against guys that it was like ridiculous because it wasn't like a legal process they had to follow to like punish guys when girls complained about stuff. It was just, you could be punished just because a girl accused you of something.
I don't know. It never occurred to me. I mostly, dated girls outside of the college, but I never heard it brought up. I don't think it was a topic discussed. I know there were a lot of actual rapes going down, like frightening, like, guy hiding in the bushes type of rapes.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that was only in the TV shows.
No, there was like an epidemic. It was probably just some serial rapist, but there was a guy like climbing into windows and doing all kinds of really frightening rapes. And
about 6'4", 6'5", tousled blonde hair.
No, that was people have been out of shape about that for good reason, but I don't know. I must have just missed it. I just don't remember anyone caring about this because I don't know. I think I was like, well, I'm a respectful guy. You're a chick. We want to fuck. I don't know. It just never seemed like an issue that needed to be brought up.
About Kim Kardashian, I think she's after Demi Lovato. After you kill off Demi Lovato, I think Kim Kardashian will be the next brunt of your insane attacks. So she got into a fight. I'm proud to say that I do not know who Tyson Beckford was. When you told me about Tyson Beckford, he's a male model, like a black male model who was like, I read this from the Wikipedia page, the Calvin Klein model for.
Yeah, he's
Calvin
a Ralph
Klein,
Lauren.
Calvin Klein private party.
He's actually, I kind of like him. He's a pretty good actor.
What does he do? Was he actor?
Yeah. I don't know. I think we're friends on Twitter. I don't know. He seems like a cool guy.
Yeah. So Susie wants to know: is it possible to body shame Kim Kardashian, considering she's a constructed edifice and not a bio life form? So I guess she lost like 30 or 40 pounds since her last pregnancy, but she still has exaggerated tits and super exaggerated ass and hips that are clearly, not real, not bio-realistic. She's clearly had implants and other shit done to her and reconstructed her bones or whatever. And Tyson Beckford basically pointed out and said that's just not something that turns me on at all. And then she basically fired back and said, "You're just a fucking homo, and that's why you don't like me."
He literally took a photo and did like a John Madden diagram of like what was not right.
Yes.
Like what was kind of freakish about what she's done to herself.
Although, is it fair to say that with all the freakish shit she's done to herself, black dudes still love her? So I mean, it's not like he's in the majority. I think most black dudes still like her. That look she has.
I don't know. I've never talked to black guys about whether or not they like her. I mean, I would say maybe it's on its tail end. I'm sure they liked her, a few years ago.
Well, she's older now. Before it got gross.
Yeah, it went gross pretty fast. I mean, it was gross, like from a conceptual standpoint to begin with, but then it became like physically, kind of like Stephen King gross.
Which just goes to show you too much of anything is bad. So breasts too big and hips and ass too big. It just went to this weird place where it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And now when she cinched her waist and got really tiny waist, it's just a bizarre-ish, like Close Encounter alien type body that I guess some black dudes still like that for some reason. But it's like, it's just when she actually is wearing like a bare midriff thing and like a tight spandex outfit. It's just freaky. It's kind of freaky looking. Like, wonder how she's gonna walk. How she's gonna be able to walk.
Yeah, it's gonna be looked back on. Like, someone's gonna buy her bones and like set them up in a museum or something.
Like Michael Jackson's nose falling off.
Yeah,
her ass. One of her ass cheeks just fall off.
Yeah, it's weird, and she's defensive about it because this is her life. I mean, you're becoming people point when you walk down the street.
Yes.
And not like, hey, look at that beautiful woman, but like, hey, what the fuck is that?
She's 5'2". I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
So and her sister, well, Chloe's like 85 feet tall, but the other one's like 5 feet tall. These are like, it's weird because not only are they that weird, exaggerated, horrifically exaggerated hourglass thing, but they're really tiny as well. So it's almost like a midget porn, weird fantasy fetish thing. It's almost like a cartoony, like, midget sex doll kind of thing going on.
Yeah, well, I would assume being kind of squat in a way.
Yes.
And I mean that. I mean, there's plenty of really hot 5'2" chicks, but it's almost like how the male bodybuilders are usually pretty short, and compact. You know? Like it's easier to like pack stuff in there. And
but when you see like I saw recently like a guy at the gym. He's like bodybuilder, ripped muscles, but he's like 5'6".
Yeah,
it still looks weird. It looks weird because he's like so short, but his body is so huge. It's like he's just proportionally he looks like Schwarzenegger, but Schwarzenegger's like 6'3".
Yeah,
but he's 5'6", and so when you stand next to him, you're like, wow, you're like a little boy with massive muscle, like massive muscle.
Yeah, it is weird. I remember seeing one of those bodybuilder magazine covers, and the guy's raising his arms over his head to flex his muscles.
Yeah,
and his hands, with his arms extended upwards, don't go above his head. I'm just like, whoa, how is that even? So like, yeah, if you're that kind of body type, these guys actually work out because they're guys. But another option would be injecting stuff. If you're that body type and you wanted to inject a bunch of silicone into your biceps, it would hold a lot more fluid than like my bicep would, for example.
Well, if you're tall, so Khloe Kardashian has the exact same body type. They've done the same surgeries and shit to her, but she's like 5'10" or whatever she is. So she can like cover it differently. So it still looks weird when she wears like spandex, whatever. But she can wear like bigger women's clothing.
Yeah.
And it kind of like covers up. Just like Shaq doesn't look so strange when he's in like a suit because he's just such a big dude. But if you had like the same Shaq like size legs on a smaller person, it would look bizarre. She's just not. And by the way, I don't think you can body shame someone who has like turned their body into a work of commercial art, whatever you want to call it. It's like a painting now, or it's a car, or it's like a house, where it's an object. You're not describing a woman. You're describing the look of an object that you might purchase.
Well, I don't think that's the way she thinks of it.
No.
And, she's looking at it like my feelings are hurt, as if
Yes.
as if she was born that way. Like, but the sad thing about it is that's all she has.
Well, she's turned it into quite a bit.
Yeah.
She was a marketing genius who first figured out that the exaggerated body would somehow get her NBA stars and get her huge TV contracts and makeup deals and whatever else it was.
Well, I think her mom figured that out.
Yes, of course.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but I'm saying she's obviously an incredibly superficial person.
Yes.
I mean, no one could deny that.
Well, also, by the way, what would not mention is that she just called Tyson Beckford a homo, and apparently that's okay. You're allowed to do that if you're Kim Kardashian, because I'm not sure like Roger Ailes would be able to get away with that. Dead fat Roger Ailes could get away with that.
Yeah, I saw in the Huffington Post, which coincidentally I think is all female editors.
Yes.
And the way they phrased it was Tyson Beckford body shames Kim Kardashian, not Kim Kardashian drops a homophobic slur. Right, that wasn't the headline, because you can really take it either way. If you wanted to describe what happened.
If it was a guy and a woman said she wasn't into him, and he said that's because you're a lesbian, it would have been a headline in the Huffington Post.
Yeah, it would have not been cool. But she's also got like that family. Like they think they're black because they fuck a lot of black guys. Like I feel like they think they can get away with dropping N-bombs and
braiding the hair, the cornrows in the hair.
Oh yeah, I mean that. But I don't know. Just calling a guy a sissy.
Yes.
Well,
you're defending Beckford here too. I think he is probably gay, but
I don't know if he's gay or not. But either way, I think he's like, yeah, and like if he's not gay, it doesn't bother him.
Yes.
If he is gay, it probably doesn't bother him that much either. He's like, well, you're the one walking around with the, garbage bag full of God knows what shoved up your asshole. So, who's the real loser here?
It's pretty gross. I don't understand the guys who find that attractive at all. I mean, there's a point, fake breasts. Everyone in LA has fake breasts. So that's pretty nice for a lot of ladies. But that exaggerated proportions on ladies, there's something alien, creepy about the whole thing where you're no longer human, where it feels kind of like bestiality a little bit when you start getting sexual thoughts about that.
Yeah, at that point, you may as well fuck a robot or a doll or something.
Can't wait for the robots to come.
Because it's got to really... It's one thing to see it in a photo. I've never met her in person, nor do I want to, but it's got to look even weirder when you really, get down to business,
I would think Kanye is exploring some different options. I'm not sure how they made Children, but I'm guessing it's not the conventional way. All right, Matt, it's time for our final segment, which can only be heard by our Steve and our other patrons on Patreon.com. For all those who are willing to donate $1 a month to hear the extended content from Last Man on Earth podcast, it's our Pennies in a Bunch segment. Thank you to our Patreon members. Matt, you have something you wish to sell for yourself besides your stealing bicycles and climbing into windows?
MattRalston.net and Twitter at Matthew Ralston. And I don't know. If you go on MattRalston.net, there's a link for a mailing list, which you might want to, if you're down, sign up for that.
Are you going to announce the next deathly ill petite female celebrity you're going to take on as you speak truth to power?
Yeah. Sorry, Demi.
If she doesn't make it, I'm really going to feel bad for her and for you. All right, Last Man on Earth. Talk to you next week.